Brazil is home to one of the most unique and little-known Islamic histories in the Western Hemisphere. It's a story of courage, resilience, cultural endurance, and spiritual identity that stretches back over 2 centuries. Welcome to Islam with Aslan. If you enjoy deep dives into untold chapters of Islamic history, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more engaging content every week. The presence of Islam in Brazil began not through missionary work or peaceful trade, as it did in many other parts of the world, but through a painful and complex path, the transatlantic slave trade. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homelands and brought to the Americas. Among them were a significant number of West Africans who were already Muslims. Many of these enslaved Muslims were from ethnic groups such as the Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba, and Mandinka, coming from regions of present-day Nigeria, Senegal, Guinea, and Mali. By the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Brazil, particularly the northeastern state of Bahia, had become home to thousands of enslaved African Muslims. These individuals brought with them not only their faith, but also a rich tradition of scholarship, literacy in Arabic, and devotion to Islam. One of the earliest documented expressions of Islamic identity in Brazil came in the form of organized resistance. On January 25, 1835, the city of Salvador in Bahia witnessed what would become the most significant Muslim-led rebellion in the Americas, the Malê Revolt. The Malay, as the Muslim Africans were called, were mostly Yoruba-speaking Muslims from Nigeria. The revolt was meticulously planned, involving both enslaved and free Muslims, many of whom were literate in Arabic. They intended to overthrow the colonial order and establish a Muslim-led state in Bahia. The leaders of the revolt included prominent figures like Ahuna, a Yoruba Muslim, and Pacifico Likutan, a respected Islamic teacher and scholar. Though the revolt was ultimately suppressed by Portuguese colonial forces, its legacy had far-reaching consequences. The Malay Revolt terrified the Brazilian elite and led to stricter controls on African gatherings, religious expression, and the use of Arabic. Despite this, Islam remained quietly resilient among small pockets of Afro-Brazilian communities, practiced in secret and passed down in whispers and fragments. Throughout the 19th century, the Islamic identity of Afro-Brazilians was further challenged by forced conversions to Catholicism, the loss of Arabic literacy, and the decline of African languages. By the early 20th century, the Islamic presence had largely faded from public view, surviving only in cultural memories and private traditions. However, a new chapter in Brazilian Islamic history began in the early 20th century with the arrival of Muslim immigrants from the Middle East, particularly from Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine. These immigrants were primarily fleeing the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and economic hardship, and they brought with them their language, traditions, and Islamic faith. Unlike the earlier African Muslims, these new arrivals were free individuals who came to Brazil voluntarily, settling in urban centers such as São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Foz do Iguaçu. They quickly became part of Brazil's commercial and social fabric, often working as merchants, traders, and small business owners. In 1929, the first official Islamic organization in Brazil was founded, the Sociedade Beneficente Muçulmana do Brasil in São Paulo. This marked the beginning of a more organized Islamic community. Mosques began to appear, and over time, Islamic schools, cultural centers, and halal butcheries were established to serve the growing Muslim population. One of the most significant milestones came in 1960 with the construction of the Mesquita Brasil in São Paulo, which is considered the oldest mosque in Brazil. It became a central hub for Islamic education, community events, and interfaith dialogue. The mosque was a symbol of both continuity and renewal, a bridge between the lost African Islamic heritage and the emerging Middle Eastern Muslim identity in Brazil. By the 1980s and 1990s, Islam began to experience yet another wave of growth, this time through conversion among native Brazilians. Many were drawn to Islam through literature, travel, or interactions with Muslim communities. Some were Afro-Brazilians seeking to reconnect with a lost ancestral heritage, while others were inspired by the universal principles of Islam, its emphasis on social justice, discipline, and monotheism. Notable organizations such as the Federação das Associações Muçulmanas do Brasil, FAMBRAS, established in 1979, have played an instrumental role in uniting the various Muslim communities across Brazil, providing religious services, translation of Islamic texts into Portuguese, and promoting public understanding of Islam. Today, estimates suggest there are over 1.5 million Muslims in Brazil, though exact numbers vary. The community is incredibly diverse, consisting of descendants of African Muslims, Middle Eastern immigrants, recent converts, and even Japanese Brazilians who have embraced Islam. Brazil now hosts over 150 mosques, Islamic centers, and prayer spaces. Among the most notable are the Omar ibn al-Khattab Mosque in Foz do Iguaçu, one of the largest in Latin America, and the Islamic Center of Campinas. Islamic festivals like Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha are celebrated openly, and Islamic charities are active in both humanitarian work and da'wah efforts. Islamic education is also flourishing. Universities such as the Universidade de São Paulo offer courses on Islamic history and Arabic language, while Islamic schools provide faith-based education to Muslim youth. Muslim women, including Brazilian converts, are increasingly visible, wearing hijab and participating in public discourse. One striking modern development is the growing role of Muslims in Brazilian media and politics. In recent years, Muslims have appeared in documentaries, news features, and even held public office. While challenges remain, including occasional Islamophobia and cultural misunderstandings, the Brazilian Muslim community continues to grow in confidence and visibility. Brazil's Islamic history is a powerful reminder that Islam's presence in the Americas is not new nor foreign. It is deeply embedded in the continent's very fabric, rooted in the struggles of enslaved African Muslims, preserved through the efforts of immigrants, and now flourishing through the voices of Brazilian converts. This vibrant and complex story is still being written today, one prayer, one family, and one community at a time. If you enjoyed this journey through Brazil's Islamic past and present, be sure to subscribe to Islam with Aslan, like the video if you learned something new, and let us know in the comments what topic you'd like us to cover next. Until next time, peace and blessings.